Hello and welcome back to Coin Lady channel. I was relieved to see Coinbase sue the SEC last month. In spite of my less than constant displeasure with Coinbase, I appreciate the company's willingness to stand up to Kim John Gensler and his buddies at the SEC. But now the SEC has reacted, and they're essentially seeking to get the whole complaint dismissed. I'm going to provide you some of the details and opinions of several local attorneys. I've had input from 3 lawyers, Jeremy Hogan, John Deaton, and James Murphy. Brad Garlinghouse, the CEO of Ripple, and Stuart Alderati, the company's top legal officer, both weighed in, as did Paul Grewal, Coinbase's chief legal officer, simply laying out the ridiculousness of the situation and showing its flaws. However, there is something I need to clarify before we go any further. I have zero experience in either the law or finance. Nothing they say or write should be taken as recommendations to purchase or sell any particular security. I'm just a fan who occasionally posts videos to YouTube discussing random crypto-related things for kicks. A coin headline follows. The Securities and Exchange Commission, SEC, in the COINGATE case has asked the court to reject Coinbase's request for an explanation of the rules. SEC officials have recently requested a judge to reject Coinbase's plea to force the agency to respond to a rulemaking petition the exchange filed last year for guidance on the applicability of securities rules to cryptocurrencies. Let us pause for that reason. They undoubtedly did submit that last year. I was simply trying to get some answers, and now it seems like an inordinate amount of time has passed for no apparent reason. Coinbase realized they were talking to an inanimate object, so they sued the SEC to get a response. Coinbase is asking the court for a writ of mandamus so that the government agency in question would carry out its duties. We are still at peace. Coinbase filed suit against the SEC last month, alleging that the regulator had not responded quickly enough or reasonably. The market is also looking for a formal notice and comment process to increase public participation. The party sounds like a lot of fun. On Monday, May 15 th, the SEC filed a legal brief in which it dismissed Coinbase's charges as without merit. The Commission's legal team filed a document saying as much. Coinbase's choice for faster or different regulatory action by the Commission does not entitle it to extraordinary relief from this court, according to the jackasses at the SEC's legal department. It's inappropriate to grant the petition, quotation end. Well, your assets, but you don't pull your weight. You aren't really trying to keep the investors safe. The declaration of purpose includes this goal. The goal is to encourage investment and safeguard existing capital. You are not engaging in such behavior. Then you keep your mouth shut when the good faith actors in our corner of the crypto world want some freaking clarification. Well, that settles it. Simply, you remain silent. Here we have it. In a word, it's fantastic. What exactly is Coinbase requesting in this case? That you actually carry out your duties. The average person won't likely agree with that, though. Here's what Paul Grewal, CLO of Coinbase, had to say about it today. The SEC has answered to Coinbase's writ of mandamus, in which the company asked the court to order the SEC to answer yes or no to the question of whether it will engage in rulemaking for our industry. The SEC has given a hazy maybe as an answer. It's possible that today's brief is the first time the SEC has formally addressed in court whether or not the SEC should adopt rules for the cryptocurrency business. SEC officials have informed the court that developing new regulations may take years. The SEC has admitted that, for the foreseeable future at least, it will resort to enforcement actions rather than rulemaking. But have no fear, for these measures of enforcement may help shape future rulemaking. Now, consider this. This is an example of regulation by enforcement, then? They intend to file suit. Once the judges have spoken, it seems possible that some type of clarity will result. The SEC may take this into consideration in the future when certain judicial pronouncements have been made and certain corporations have been sued out of existence. And perhaps based on it, they will make some form of rulemaking. It's possible that this hasn't been deliberated upon just yet. Can you see the nonsense in this? And so, if I may, I'll simply look this up right now. Alderati Stuart. Check out what Stuart Alderati had to say about it. Again, he identified himself as the chief legal officer of Ripple in his message. He discovered an error in the SEC's filing. They make reference to their ambitious plans for crypto regulation and law enforcement. Do you think they really intend an agenda of active regulation? I doubt any of us predicted the SEC's crypto regulation agenda to the letter. Greetings, Mr. Paul Grewal, an employee at Coinbase, continues. The SEC further clarified that Chair Gensler's public pronouncements do not constitute official guidance or policy declarations from the SEC, and so the public should not place as much weight on them. So, remember one of the worst instances of SEC officials trying to influence public opinion and business owners' decisions through their words. Still, they can hide behind the cloak of, well, that's just my opinion when challenged. In this case, I don't think it makes a difference. Oh, the irony to be an unelected bureaucracy where you can prognosticate on your bully pulpit at all times, every week a new video or speech, and then say no one should rely on your remarks as direction, stated Brad Garlinghouse in response to the Ripple CEO. Indeed, that is the case, guys. And those asterisks are a standard feature. Hey, these are just my thoughts, and I'm not offering any proof, and I'm not explaining anything clearly, and I'm continuously preaching. I follow Kim Jong-un on Twitter because I have a YouTube channel, not because I enjoy seeing his tweets in my feed, but because I do it for you guys. Right. But he keeps showing up and being featured in videos. The thing is, I can't put my finger on it. Perhaps he's aspiring to join the ranks of the Kardashians he sued. I can't say. But he can't get enough of the praise. So he's making these movies where he basically says nothing except his own viewpoint. Meanwhile, the SEC has not issued any clear guidance on how this should proceed. This is standard operating procedure. It's true that SEC officials have been acting this way since the beginning of time, but it serves no useful purpose and only serves to confuse the public. And if you look at Hinman in 2018 in particular, I believe it was done on purpose. That is something of which I am nearly positive. In fact, the media reacted as if it were an SEC decree, and at the time, most people, at least in the crypto space, didn't know the difference between an SEC decree and someone's opinion. Hinman did say just my personal opinion, but how did it go over with you? How was it that his private opinion was amplified across social media, cryptocurrencies, and the traditional press? In numerous instances, it was presented as an SEC ruling. Has the SEC ever issued a public statement warning its members to slow down? Billy Boy Hinman has expressed his personal view here. When did they make the claim? No one ever explained why. They simply stated, here is the intended meaning. That's how it appears to me. Paul Grewal continues, saying, overall, the SEC's response reinforces Coinbase's long-standing concern that our industry does not have clarity on what the SEC may consider to be within or outside of its jurisdiction at any given time. And it's expected to keep shifting its position as it goes. We are eager to provide a formal response next week. We also remain grateful for the court's thoughtful deliberation. Here's an item from the library that was successfully litigated out of existence. Unfortunately, they have signaled that they will soon cease to exist altogether after having effectively ceased operations. Since the library token is a decentralized cryptocurrency, it will continue to function as intended. But here's what the library says about the subject. The SEC made much ado about one sentence from a community chat moderator who did not receive compensation for her work. Meanwhile, the SEC contends in Coinbase's complaint that the agency's top officials can't be trusted when they talk about securities legislation. That's crazy, right? Please consider that. Simply an unpaid volunteer moderator for the library's online community. Making claims, only to have the SEC respond with says what? Proof positive that LBC is a security. However, at the SEC's highest levels, with Kim Gensler at the helm, they may essentially say whatever they want. Furthermore, that is not a sign of anything. I can't believe how hypocritical they are. These individuals are very repulsive. Here is the opinion of attorney Jeremy Hogan. Answering the question of whether or not the SEC will regulate cryptocurrencies equitably was never the point of Coinbase's writ. To put it bluntly, no. Coinbase launched this counterattack in anticipation of the SEC case that will be filed against it this summer. So, give that some consideration. In this case, I really appreciate Attorney Hogan's legal acumen. So, it's not a matter of gaining insight. And here I had believed Coinbase wouldn't expect any real insight from this. So, tell me, why? And well, we have some strategy going on up in this bitch, so says Attorney Hogan. So the objective is gathering data, and the preliminary results of this fishing expedition seem promising. Then, Hogan adds that the law isn't even the main focus of trial work. You use the law, but your goal is to paint your client in the best possible light and the other side in the worst possible light. The decent person will always win in court. Coinbase aimed for just that. And I think it picked up some stuff strategically useful, my friends. Here is the opinion of Attorney John Deaton. I agree with Paul Grewal that the SEC employs some decent people, but I cannot defend the agency as a whole. It is a dysfunctional organization that disregards its stated purpose. The ICO craze of 2017-2020 was precipitated by the DAO report, which was filed in July 2017. By the way, the SEC has brought 57 cases related to cryptocurrency and blockchain technology to trial. Despite being the number 2 or 3 cryptocurrency, XRP was not targeted in any of the 57 lawsuits. The SEC finally released Hinman's remarks to the public in June of 2018. According to the SEC's 2019 Digital Asset Framework, a cryptocurrency used for payments and as a substitute for cash is not likely to pass the Howey test because of its dual purpose. In 2014, the U.S. Government Accountability Office recognized XRP as a virtual currency used in a decentralized payment system. The next year, FinCEN recognized XRP as a virtual currency, and in 2019, FSOC did the same. In 2019, Jay Clayton also acknowledged his agreement with Hinman's remarks and the possibility that a token may initially function as a security. However, the sales that follow do not please Howey. Despite this background and the passage of a complete decade, the SEC nonetheless contends in its brief that a time frame of 20 or 30 years is fair and enough for providing direction or clarification to the market in such matters. The SEC is in disrepair. Dead on? This explains why Coinbase took so long to submit. Since they were never in trouble with the SEC, it was the obvious and correct course of action. Absent without a trace. Simply reply, especially in light of the attorney's observation made here. According to the brief, either 20 or 30 years is acceptable. That being said, let's get going. Decades. What happens next? After 2 or 3 decades, things seem to fall into place miraculously. The bright side is that there will be several different governments in power at various points. And this is why Attorney Dean has been warning for so long that we shouldn't put our faith in Congress to solve the situation anytime soon, despite the fact that it is Congress that holds the actual levers of power. James Murphy, an attorney and self-proclaimed meta lawman on Twitter, offers his thoughts here. In my experience, he's consistently perceptive. This is what he had to say. SEC's response to Coinbase lawsuit makes headlines. The SEC's strategy of delay is, unfortunately, nothing new. This is what you need to understand. Coinbase is requesting a court order to compel the SEC to merely respond to Coinbase's request for rulemaking on digital assets. The SEC is not providing such information. Well, not just yet. First, according to the SEC, it hasn't made up its mind whether or not to approve Coinbase's request for new regulations. Second, it can take as long as it likes to decide whether or not to grant the petition. Stop for a moment. If they've been delaying this long on purpose, it's because they want to obtain as many victories in court as possible while avoiding answering any questions that could benefit investors or other market participants. No effort will be made to respond to such inquiries. They're content to wait for many years. And then he goes on to say that number 3, it plans to keep litigating crypto firms regardless of any new regulations. The SEC did highlight a few situations where judges refused redress to petitioners after waiting years for government authorities to respond. In light of this, the SEC maintains that processing the Coinbase petition slowly is standard operating procedure. In the end, the SEC might be able to get away with this technique of delaying the long-awaited Ripple ruling. Extremely significant. Thanks to everyone who contributed to this thoughtful conversation. This is the case, alas, for anyone who owns cryptocurrency other than XRP. Unfortunately, this is bad news for me and everyone else listening right now who holds any cryptocurrency other than XRP. The news is bad for everyone. Whoever else. Those of us who own XRP will be among the first to receive regulatory clarity, hopefully in a favorable direction. Though I'll be the first to confess, even that's not a sure thing right now. What Judge Torres says about the matter is crucial. But that would establish a major precedent for the entire crypto industry. And I simply think the only way you're going to see an appeal on the Judge Torres judgment is if Ripple loses, which I think is the only way you're going to see an appeal. But I agree with Attorney Hogan that the SEC probably isn't appealing. However, in my opinion, it is not what is most likely. Attorney Hogan doubts that this will happen, since it would involve an appeals court. To what extent that is precedent establishing is unclear. The SEC's strategy of just destroying the crypto asset class would be rendered moot if they lost at the appeal level. That's something I'd like to see. Not because I want the SEC versus Ripple case to drag on any longer, but because I think it's good for the industry as a whole. Wow, this is one crazy world. No, I don't give out financial advice. Nothing I say or write should be used as a basis for making financial decisions. Please hit that like button and turn on those notifications. See you later, bye.